Hi, this is Stephen Mead, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the bullseye belief system. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Mead, and this is the Bullseye Guy Podcast. Stephen Mead again, back with another Bullseye Guy Podcast, returning from New York. New York is always fun and interesting. I received an alert on the phone that I had never received. Sitting here with Rob Charles from Goldfingr, we're going to jump in a minute, but I received a squall alert, a snow squall.
What's a snow squall?
Rob asked, what's a snow squall? You'll have to scoot up. Well, I had no idea. We were actually sitting in a meeting with Omnicom, and we thought it was Amber Alerts because everybody's phone went off. And I walked out of the meeting, got on the train. The minute I come up out of the train, massive snowstorm. And a snow squall was something that just moved through within 45 minutes. The snow came through and it was gone. It was really weird. But why do I say that? If I sniffle or cough, that's the precursor walking in and out of the snow. It's one of the travel hazards. You never know what the weather's going to be. And speaking of travel, we're sitting here with Rob Charles, my buddy from Goldfingr. And every time I think I travel a lot, some of these guys have a schedule that just sort of puts me to shame. But Rob and I met a couple of years ago probably.
Yeah, we met a few years ago. Actually, I was at a Sundance Film Festival and then flew out to a SANG conference with Larry Benet.
Guy named Larry Benet, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we originally met. And then we lost contact for a couple of years, and then we're reconnected by Neil Sperling. And then
reconnected in Malta, which
Malta.
we'll schedule and talk about because you won some awards there and then moderated and some fun things. But the podcast, the Bullseye Podcast, is entrepreneurial, and I like doing things. Actually, in Chicago, I used to have a show called Chicago Nights, and we would interview professional athletes, and we would talk about things that they learned as an athlete that translated into business, and things that they learned that were some of the challenge they overcome. So from an introductory standpoint, I know that you were a former professional athlete. So let's go back. We'll move up to the investment stuff. Give us a little bit on your background, the professional athlete side, and sort of how you became an entrepreneur.
Okay, so I guess I'll date myself here, but 2 times pro athlete. My first time, my dream growing up was to play professional soccer. So when I graduated high school in '87, I actually flew to West Germany and played for a year for Bonner SC in 1987-88. So I turned 18 right after I arrived there and played for 1 year.
Wow.
Professionally. Didn't turn out how I wanted it to turn out, but yeah, I did play and then came back to the United States after. Yeah. That was the first time. Then later in life, when I was 33, I went through like a transformational work program, and I was with same work that like Tony Robbins did, Oprah Winfrey, and my buddy happened to be Guy Mesger, 5 times UFC champion. On my goals, my life goals, it was to study martial arts. So I started, training Muay Thai, Thai boxing. I invested in Guy's gym, Lions Den, Dallas, and started training just for fun. Quit smoking, started getting in shape. 2 years later, 2006, I was WKA light middleweight champion, 156 pounds for North America. And then I went to world championships and in Spain and was number 2 in the world. But this was while I was running multiple companies. I was doing it really for fun. And then I got off in it and went down a rabbit hole and ended up fighting for about 7 years.
And I told a quick story that my boxing career lasted, I think it might have been 2 matches, but I remember it was 1 and it was 5th grade. And I was telling Rob on the way down, I'm out there and the guy kept pummeling me in the face. And after the first round, the coach's like, what's going on? Do this, do that. Pummeling me. Finally, by the 3rd round, the coach looks at me and says, why can't you hit the guy? And I said, he keeps moving his gloves. Because in practice, we were always hitting the gloves. We never hit anybody's face. And so I think my career lasted about 3 rounds. Yours has obviously done much better, world champion. But What is Muay Thai versus traditional boxing, and what's the discipline, and how is it different?
Well, it's different. I mean, it's different in many, many ways. The best analogy that I like to use when people talk about fighting, Thai boxing specifically, it has 8 weapons. So boxing, it's American boxing with your hands. Then your elbows, both elbows, knees, and kicks. So it's 8 weapons basically. But the analogy I like to use is like fighting, looking in, playing 3-dimensional chess while looking in the mirror with pain involved. So the fight is actually against myself.
Yeah.
People think it's against the opponent, because if you fight if one fights a perfect fight, you can't lose. You lose when I lose when I make a mistake. And this happened one time when I was preparing for a big fight. I asked my trainer if I should watch videotapes of the opponent. He goes, "Why?" Has absolutely nothing to do with your opponent. It actually has to do with yourself. If you fight your fight and you fight it well, and actually that applies to business and you know, in the business world as well. All the lessons I learned in the ring or in sports can be applied to business. And that being said, for example, people say, "Oh, who are your competitors?" or "What are your who's your competition with Goldfingr?" And first off, I don't really look at anyone's competition. I call it co-opetition because I'm very collaborative. And number 2 is it doesn't matter, because we have our game plan on what we're doing, and we do it very well, and we do it the best. And as long as you do it the best, it doesn't matter. Instead of being in fear, being reactive, right? We're proactive. I'm proactive on my business, right? So yeah, that's a little bit.
Yeah, so let's back up, because I want to get into Goldfingr in a minute. But if I think if we jumped right into it, it would be hard to understand, because you play at a level with who's involved in the investors and the groups and stuff that if we just accelerated to that, there's a lot that's happened in between there.
Sure.
So let's go back, because you said exactly what we're looking for. Is what are some of the entrepreneurial lessons? What were some of the businesses and lessons you learned from not only soccer, which I play and understand, but the Muay Thai, getting, punched in the nose, as you aptly quoted Mike Tyson of saying, what are 2 or 3 of the lessons that you think you learned that have translated well throughout your business career?
Well, I think I'm ongoing. I like to think that I'm continuous student and always learning. The quote you said about Mike Tyson, it's one of my favorites. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's sort of like an entrepreneur. Like they have a business plan. They have not even a business plan, a pitch deck. They're saying, "Oh, we're going to do this in the next couple of years," and then all of these things happen that are unexpected. And there's so many different things that happen in life. For example, in subprime crisis, I was investing in real estate and had no idea that you have the world economic crisis, which happened. So I think most important when I, as an entrepreneur, and what I look at in other entrepreneurs when we invest in companies is most important thing is their character. Are they able to withstand the challenges of being an entrepreneur? Are they able to bounce back? Are they able to take all this stuff and apply it into business? A lot of people give up, and it's extremely difficult. I've been an entrepreneur. I mean, technically starting business, running my own business over 25 years. If you were to date that back into really, like I said, when I played pro soccer, that's even entrepreneur as well. So one could even say over 30 years. So I've been doing it my whole life. And I can even, when it comes to like fighting in the ring, say I've learned more from my defeats, the times I've lost, my losses, as opposed to my victories. And getting knocked out. I've been knocked out in the ring a couple of times as well. It's being able to take these things. And for me, there is no like really win or lose. It's just a constant evolution of learning and making it better and better.
Yeah, and from a business standpoint, you and I joked. I like the quote as well from Tyson about,
it's great,
everybody has a plan until you're punched in the nose or punched in the face. And as an entrepreneur, not only are you constantly going to get punched in the nose, but the aspect of how you react to it, right? It's not just getting punched, but what's your reaction? The only thing you can control in life is your actions and your attitude. You know, and that'll help us transition somewhat into Goldfingr, because as an entrepreneur, what do you need to learn about the next step? If you get punched in the nose, if you get, you know, cut from a team, if you try to make something that's not a goal, what do you think a character set is to make an entrepreneur successful?
Well, I mean, part of it is you know, ingrained and natural talent, but just like with any sport, you're only as good as your trainers are. Like when I fought, I was only as good as my cornerman. I had to listen to my trainers. I had talent, but and just like Mike Tyson as well, he was stripped down and rebuilt, you know, by proper training and so forth. So, and it's not really if you're going to have issues or problems. I mean, you're definitely going to have them. Yeah. It's just the way it works. And if you have the really the tools and experience and character to withstand and then problem solve and figure out a way to make it work, because there's always a way to make it work. A lot of times you have to be creative. Have entrepreneurs that come in and say they need to raise $5 million or $3 million, and sometimes they don't necessarily need to raise that amount of money. I've broken, you know, with Goldfingr, I've broken all the rules, the typical paradigm of Silicon Valley, of a seed round, an A round, hoping to monetize. I've taken very little capital with Goldfingr, and we're a profitable company. And that's just because I've learned different things through the years of how to make it work, which is an ongoing process. So
yeah, so we'll make that last segue to Goldfingr, but the transition in between from when you and I met years ago, you were doing some stuff around concerts and entertainment or promotion. I don't quite remember, but I know you and I were talking about festivals, and there's something that was a gap and a bridge before Goldfingr, and we'll move into that.
Well, yeah. So originally, the concept I had for Goldfingr was in 2001. And it was before there was a small world. It was what I call it a mastermind network, a social network. Before they existed, it was there was no Friendster, no MySpace, any of this stuff. And then fast forward, this concept had been evolving. I had different companies, different investments through the years. I went back to my original idea at 2014 is when we started Goldfingr officially. And I had the idea for this social/deal investment network club, and but just because you have an idea doesn't necessarily mean, and you develop a system doesn't mean anyone's going to use it for tech platforms. So I reverse engineered it and started with the events, with the hospitality side, because I saw a need, and we started the first version of the app when we met was actually a concierge app.
Yeah.
And it was never the end game. It was an initial rollout to get people to solve problems and to give people access. And then we reverse engineered it into what it is now, which is this deal system/social network club.
Okay, so let's then jump up to that. Give me, you know, in the audience, and this will be a good soundbite for you as well, Rob. What's the 60, 90 second, 2 minute sort of what is Goldfingr? Mm-hmm. And let's set the premise there, and then we'll reverse into what makes it different and why it's unique and why you just won a global award in Malta that we'll talk about as well. But to describe it, what is Goldfingr?
So Goldfingr is a members-only global investment club based on the Mastermind Principle. We're the first and only digital members-only club, started in 2014. We now have chapters, decentralized chapters in 7 international cities. And we have a wait list of 20 cities that want to open up chapters right now. Our membership is comprised of everything from artists to billionaires, about 70% of angels, VCs, funds, family offices, about 20% of founders and CEOs, and about 10% of other influential people into this vetted network I call club that helps companies and investors and accelerate from on every access and have access to all the resources they need.
Okay, and this is funny. I always like to loop in Eagle over here because we're at the Groove Radio station, the studios downtown. When I bring in the musician guys, Eagle's all excited and smiling. With Rob, I can see his face, and he's trying to figure it out because It's a completely different world from what the Groove Radio guys normally do. But I get it, Rob, and it's an amazing thing. What was when you started the concept of the idea? Why did you start it? What problem were you trying to solve, and what do you think you've done efficiently within Goldfingr that'll allow us to talk about why you just won this global award?
Well, I've been on both sides of the equation for a couple of decades, from the investor side as well as the entrepreneur side, and there's huge inefficiencies on both sides of the equation. And so with Goldfingr, we're actually solving all these problems. And how are we doing that? Well, first off, so the Mastermind Principle. So the Mastermind Principle is not a new concept. I didn't invent it. It's been around for centuries. Every major fortune has been built upon the Mastermind Principle. Every successful person. The U.S. Constitution was written upon the Mastermind Principle. Those that don't know, it's whenever two or more minds align in harmony, a third mind is created, which is exponentially greater than the sum of its parts. This has been going on for centuries. What we've done is modernize this. We've created a mastermind network and the key in the Mastermind Principle is aligned in harmony. You have to have everyone that is working together collectively. If they're not, then it breaks down. So that's when we have a vetted network and a vetted club for this, and it's centered around investment, but it's not only investment. It actually works for everything. So what I found there's all these inefficiencies, meaning investors, everyone's raising capital, even investors nowadays. They have fund one, fund two. They need, and everyone has their private networks. There's also the in-person component where people have to meet in person to develop relationships. The deals get done in person. And there's no platforms that allow people to do that besides meetup.com. And then ours is a vetted and more influential network. Some of the other problems is people need resources. Companies they're going fast. They need to scale in different markets. They might need business development. They might need legal. They might need accounting. And the way the world works is you don't just Google a lawyer. When you need a lawyer, who do you ask? You just build some relationships. You ask your peers. So I've taken all these things, and I could go on, but a couple other things are entrepreneurs spend 70% of their time raising capital when they should be operating the business. Yeah. Completely inefficient. If you invest, you want the entrepreneur running the business, not raising capital. The other thing is through investor platforms, 70% of the investment is going offline, not through the platform, which is our case in point, meaning the series of engagements that's needed to develop relationships. So like with real estate, it's location, location, location. With Goldfingr, it's relationships. It's that relationships of trust and integrity. And when you bring in even small groups of influential people working together, you can move mountains. And we've been already moving mountains as well.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on two things, because anytime you're around, somebody that's had the successes like you have, Robin. Again, in my background, I read 357 books, and one of the books I read early on when I was 22 is Think and Grow Rich.
Yep, amazing.
Which talks about masterminds, but it says line 1, paragraph 1, mentions made in every chapter of The Secret. Mm-hmm. And I challenge people that have read it, what's the secret? And they're like, oh, think positive. If you ever want to know, I know the secret to the secret. I know the science of what Napoleon Hill was trying to say in the book, but he never said. So at some point we'll share that one. It'll be fun, because this concept of alignment and mastermind and how your brain actually works for attraction is really fascinating when you figure it out. Mm-hmm. But you also said something else interesting that I totally agree with. As a CEO, people say, what's your job? My job as a CEO, whenever I start the companies, I'm a glorified business development recruiter, fundraiser. Like as a CEO, the majority of your time, unfortunately, is spent raising money and hiring people. And that to me is the distinction between a CEO and a president. Sometimes you need a president or a COO. And people ask me, oh, what would you do if you had more money? I said I would hire people to be more efficient. Yep. It's all about that execution, but it's also about the relationships where, yes, you did date yourself with Friendster and MySpace. Anybody that knows, before Instagram, there was a thing called Facebook. I know all the kids are off of Facebook now. Before Facebook, there was a Friendster and a MySpace and a High Five. there were a bunch of these sort of platforms. Small World has sort of gone, in and out with that that team, but there is something to be said about personal interaction and personal relationships. There's only so much you can do digitally. And I know what you've done effectively is taken not only this concept of digital alignment, but you've moved it into the real world with some of your deal clubs. You have some coming up. Here we are, December 2019. You and I were talking. You have one coming up in London. You have Davos. What have you found? What was the reason for doing the deal clubs, and how have you found that adds an efficiency for what Goldfingr offers?
Well, originally, let's back up a second. About 3+ years ago, we opened up the membership portion of Goldfingr. We started originally in 2014. The mobile app, the first release, was in June of 2015. Like I said, we're a tech company. And then over a few years ago, we started our membership. We opened our membership, and we started with 3 founding members that are all 3 billionaires: David Walsh, Michael Collado, and Alex Russo. They have 38 exits. And we started with some art events, some social events, and some investor events. So we're testing the market. And what we originally, just because we're private and to develop traction in New York City. And what happened was people actually loved our events, and they were very simple, but they were in a really high-end venue with top quality people. And everyone in New York loved it. And so we started just with that. And then after a period of time, what we found was the biggest value is what people were getting from the ecosystem, from the other members, through the relationships. And so we were cranking out 4 to 6 events per month in New York for the first couple of years. We did no PR, no marketing, just word of mouth. They're the upper echelon of people in New York City. And now everyone in New York is either knows about us, is a member, or has been to a Goldfingr event. And now we've scaled that into 7 international cities, and now we'll start doing some targeted digital marketing and PR for 2020.
Okay, good. And what I talk about with the bullseye belief system is I have this philosophy that what you do is irrelevant, not in a bad way, but what you do is irrelevant. What you need is important. And one of the things that makes Goldfingr thrive are the members. What's a bullseye? What's a target? What are 3, 4, 5 criteria for potential members who may be interested in, reaching out to you for Goldfingr? What's some of the qualification characteristics you look for?
Well, first I'd like to say, when you're just saying about what you do and how you do it, my partner and I, Scott, when we have a joke, it's not what you do, and it's not how you do it. It's how you look when you're doing it.
Okay.
I'm joking. There's a little joke there. But so some of the criteria, if you have a Venn diagram of a good person and successful in some way, that's our target market. Like I said, it's not about money. I could really care less how much someone has on the balance sheet. It doesn't impress me. And what it's not, our target demographic is successful, wealthy, and let's say an a-hole. All right, that's so, excuse my French.
Right, I got a chuckle at Eagle and the guys there. They understand that one.
That you can take it on down the road. I don't really care how much money you have and what you do and who you think you are, right? And are they going to bring value to the community? Because our ethos is give first, always add value. So we have a lot of very influential people that are helping each other. We also have a lot of people seem to forget this. We're humans. We're here for this human experience to work together, and help each other. And we also have 11 principles. The first being the Mastermind Principle. So, like I said, we have everything from artists to billionaires. We have great entrepreneurs. We have one member. She's Ashmaret Michelle. She's used to train the Israeli Special Forces. She's a ultra marathon champion. She's not high net worth yet, but she runs 120 miles and she wins.
Wow.
And not only that, she doesn't train at all. She just goes out and runs 120 miles and wins. I consider that successful.
Yeah.
More so than some people with a lot of money. So that's sort of
Okay.
Criteria.
And I didn't do this in show prep. We did some cool little Instagram BTS behind the scenes stuff for Rob. Is there a way for people to get a hold of you? Is there an application process? Is there membership review? And are you comfortable sharing that information?
Yeah, sure. So if you can go on our website, which is www.goldfingr.net. So it's GOLDFINGR.net. No E in Goldfingr. If you're raising money and you're looking for capital, which a lot of people are, you can email info@goldfingr.net and check out our website.
Okay, good. And the Groove radio station guys, they always love when we promote them. Eagles over here saying great stuff. And Rob, you mentioned this earlier. We were reconnected through our buddy Neil Sperling, who considers himself, between Larry Benet and Neil Sperling, they consider themselves Uber connectors. I love those guys.
Yeah.
But they also need a business. At some point, you've built a business around connections, which is a great distinction from what those guys have done. But I still love them. So Goldfinger's done well. You're in a number of cities. You've got events coming up. And as you said, we were just reconnected in Malta. It was fun. And I give you credit when you and I sat down, you looked and you're like, wait, I've met before. And then I pulled it up on my phone. I'm like, yeah, it was Larry.
Yeah.
So that was the fun stuff. But you actually won an award. So this was at the AIBC at Malta with the Imam. We actually interviewed Oliver, the COO, before that. You guys were awarded with the global.
We won the award for the best investment club in 2019, which was a global award.
Yeah.
In Malta, and then a few months earlier, right after Burning Man, we were awarded a award for the best club in New York City by a British company. So we won 2 awards this year.
Okay. And for the next 12 to 15 months, what are some of the things on the horizon for you that you either need help with or you see coming or you're excited about?
Well, we're really cranking it up in 2020. I'm very, very excited about what's coming. I mean, we have the next versions of our mobile app that are coming out in the next few months. One piece is we have our investor platform, which would be fully regulated for UK, European investors, and next step would be US investors. And it's one of the first systems that actually vets the deals in the system.
Okay.
And produces reports and comprehensive due diligence for investors. I'm also what we're also doing, we're launching Greenfinger in Davos, which is a spinoff.
Green is the next green. I said that a while ago with the cannabis.
Greenfinger. We're partnered with ICANN, which is an investment club for cannabis, hemp, and CBD, backed by our own fund, Greenfinger Fund. We're setting up numerous funds right now, as well as Smart Cities Fund, an A-round fund as well, which will be starting investing directly in 2 companies in 2020. We also have the next versions of our mobile app that are coming out, which we have an in-app bank account, multi-fiat, multi-crypto, really like the first system like this in the world. And we'll just continue doing what we're doing, scaling new cities, making it better and better and better. For me, it's like, back to the whole Thai boxing thing, right? You don't, become champion or win a fight. You have to, all these little improvements, small incremental improvements over time add up to huge results. So we just continually, for us, it's only going to get better and better and better. That's it.
Yeah, that's why I said this is great. You and I, obviously, I hope have to spend some more time together, because when I talk about the bullseye system, because I played professional soccer too. I played soccer and I still play competitively. But when I was doing sales training, I read a book. I read 357 books in 6.5 years, which sounds like a lot, but it was 1 book per week. But just like you said, I would dissect a skill set and then train a new skill every week just to build on top of it.
Yep.
And some of these things are interesting and easy, but not everybody has the discipline to do it.
Yep.
And when you get punched, not everybody gets back up.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up here, Rob. Greatly appreciate it. Congratulations again on the Malta, the New York stuff, the London, Davos, all the events that are coming up. Rob Charles, so it's Goldfingr, Gold, Fingr.
Yep. And you can download our app as well in both the App Store and Android and Google as well.
Oh, it's under Goldfingr in the app. Yeah. So download the app. Check him out. Rob's doing an amazing job. I love the ethos of helping people, getting together, getting better, making a difference in the world. So closing up, Stephen Mead, the Bullseye Guy. This is the Bullseye Guy podcast. Tune in next week. More great information coming. Again, Rob.
Thank you, Stephen.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Eagle. Thanks as always. All right.
Thank you.